Welcome, everybody, to our latest installment of Scream Creeps, where this week it's going to be part of, I guess we can call it our premiere part of this podcast, because if you guys are aware, we kind of review everything horror. But for this week, we went and saw the movie Saw 10, or Saw X, I guess you could say, but same difference. But for anybody that is watching this podcast that has not yet seen the movie, which it just premiered tonight, we are going to give away spoilers. So just be aware of that. If you don't want to know what the movie's about,
many spoilers.
Yes, yes. So
we're talking about pretty much the whole movie.
Yep. So for anybody that does not want to hear about the movie before they see it, wait to listen to this podcast until after you go and watch it, and then come back and watch the podcast, and if you agree with what we have to say, go ahead and let us know in the comments. But for everybody else, go ahead and continue listening, and we hope you enjoy it. So, as I stated, Saw X just released on September 29th, which was, as of today, was filming. It's considered an American horror film, and it's actually the 10th installment in the Saw film series. But what I was not aware of, it serves as both a direct sequel to the first Saw movie in 2004 and a prequel to Saw 2 that was made in 2005.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was
that
Saw
makes
2
sense.
And Saw 3,
Yeah.
but
That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and it was directed and edited by Kevin Grudert, which he, if nobody's familiar with, he actually directed, I believe, Saw 6. That was his directorial debut, and he was the editor for the first 5 films and the 8th one. So he's very familiar with the Saw series. It's pretty much mostly what he's worked on. He's been executive producer on other films and editor on a few, but it was written by Josh Stolberg, which I looked back at his history, and he worked in, it looks like, on a lot of comedies. He worked on a couple of horror films, like he was basically the screenwriter for Good Luck Chuck, if you guys remember that movie with Dane Cook and Jessica Alba. But he worked on a movie, the script for Man Witch, which I had never heard of.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was directed by Todd Phillips, which... So
like witch, like sandwich, or like witch, like...
Man Witch, like a witch, like Blair Witch.
Okay, that's what I figured.
But yeah, Todd Phillips, if you remember, is the Hangover guy. So it must have been a horror / comedy or something.
Yeah, probably something to that. And probably schlocky stuff like Killer Clowns or something.
Yeah, he worked on the remakes of Piranha 3D and Sorority Row. So, but yeah, and then the other person that wrote it was Peter Goldfinger, which I didn't really find much information on him. The film stars Tobin Bell and Shawnee Smith, who reprised their roles from the previous films. And then I'm going to shred this name, but it's Sanov Makoti Lund, also starred, and Stephen Brand, Renata Vaca, and Michael Beach. So Michael Beach, if you guys remember, he was in, I know, Aquaman. He's been in quite a few things, but Soul Food, Waiting to Exhale, and Lean on Me was what I really remember him from.
Damn, Lean on Me? Freaking crap.
Yeah, you don't remember that he was in that?
No, well, I don't know if I know the guy. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we'll give it away later, but he played Henry in the movie.
Oh, okay.
So, if you can remember him. But Sanov Makoti Lund was the main protagonist in the movie. She's from...
Sanov Makoti Lund? No, that's the Peterson. She was the antagonist.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Antagonist. Stephen Brand was another character in the movie. He's from, if you guys remember, the Scorpion King. He played Memnon in it.
Memnon, yeah.
I'm I'm trying to pronounce everything right, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fun fact, I was actually watching, you were talking about Tobin Bell and stuff, playing
uh-huh.
John Kramer and stuff. I was watching something recently. It was The Quick and the Dead.
Okay.
And then he's one of the first people
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
actually fights Leo.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Oh my, that's the dude from Saw. I was
Yeah.
like, holy crap!
Well,
I
the
remember
funny
loving that movie when
yeah,
I was
the funny
younger.
thing is Tobin Bell and Johnny Smith to me. I remember them from other stuff, but they've now
Hmm.
become
Yeah.
synonymous with this
Yeah.
movie. Like you almost can't think of the Saw movies without those two.
Yeah,
It's
who?
so
What? There was something I saw Shawnee in that
well.
I
She was,
like.
if I remember, she was on as a kid. She was in stuff
Wasn't she in a
like
show or something like that?
She wasn't in Power Rangers. No, that's not the right
no,
person.
it's not her, but she was
It
in the
was
Blob back in 1988. But she was on
the
in Who's Harry
that's.
Crumb, and
Hmm.
she's been in quite a few things. I'm
Oh
trying to
yeah.
remember the
Okay.
thing that I
Yeah.
really remember her from, but
Um,
uh, she was always
the
in.
Blob. I remember her from that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
um,
because
I think it's more TV is what I remember her from, like Silver
yeah,
Spoons
I'm
back in
not.
the day. You probably don't even remember that because it
I
was
don't know.
made back
Yeah.
in
I think
1984.
that was a
But
little bit before me. Like,
yeah,
Sinov Makovi Lund. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I know she's
she's
actually
from
like
Ragnarok,
Nordic.
but
Yeah, she's
yeah,
from Ragnarok. If you haven't seen that show,
oh, that's who.
great
Oh,
show.
where I remember her from summer school. I remember.
yeah,
Sorry.
Oh,
that's
Okay.
that was
Shawnee Smith.
Yeah,
yeah.
because I was trying to
Yeah.
see like this stuff, and then I remember summer school. I know that I remember, and that's more than likely what the movie is that I was thinking of.
Hmm. Most of
But
the rest of the cast beyond Steve Brand is,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean, the Michael Beach guy, the really small part that he played, he was the, well, I don't want to tell it right now.
yeah.
He was from, I can't even remember what it is. Ah, no, ignore me right now.
Well, I had mentioned he was in Lean on Me back in the day,
Oh
so
yeah.
that was the one I remember him from primarily. But he's been in a ton of stuff. Aquaman was another one, if you remember. He was in that. Um,
That's the dad,
anyhow,
right? That's
huh?
the dad to Mantis.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. He wasn't in it for very long.
No.
If anybody has not seen that movie, I can kind of gave something away there, but hopefully everybody's seen it. That, in fact,
Most
This
of the
whole
movies,
thing's
somebody.
spoilers.
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I think did you guys during the movie, and I know I'm digressing a little bit from the intro, but did you guys was Aquaman 2 one of the
Yes.
previews that
Yeah,
you
that
saw?
was one of the
Okay.
previews. Yeah.
So, okay.
So, just a little side note thing. I saw something where it was in the news where Jason Momoa would dress up like Johnny Depp whenever he had a scene with Amber Heard in it. I saw that. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's interesting. I think they showed her in one brief clip of the scene, but anyways,
Yeah,
well,
she's probably in a very small.
yeah.
yeah. Well, they said that they
Probably
toned
just
her
to kill her off.
down, and then at
Yeah.
one point, yeah, that's what I'm guessing. It's
So
probably Black Manta kills her. But anyway, yeah.
yeah, as I said before, this is the 10th installment, but it was reported to be in development with Twisted Pictures back in 2021 of April of 2021.
Yeah, I can see that.
With those two, Stolberg and Goldfinger, confirming that the script was completed in December of 2021.
Yeah.
The
Probably
crazy
COVID.
the crazy part about this is how fast it seems like everything went from in filming. So filming took place from October 2022 to February of this year. So it literally
What?
just finished filming in
Oh,
February,
yeah.
and then they
Oh,
turn
you
around
mean
and yeah.
finished to actual being able to get it in theaters and everything like
Yeah,
that.
so I mean, they
That's the
filmed it over
well. You think about it. There's
4 months, and
there's less CGI in a film like this because they use a lot more. Like The Thing, they use
yeah,
prosthetics and everything else, so a lot less. That would cut down the time a lot. So
yeah,
Well,
and the
that
entire
and
filming.
oh,
Sorry,
all
the
digital.
entire the entire filming was in Mexico City, so that
So they were actually where they said that they were,
Yeah,
they
they
said
had
that
Well,
they were in Mexico.
where he ended up, yeah.
Yeah.
But so far, it has received mostly positive reviews from critics, with most describing it as the strongest entry since the first film. And there's a high amount of praise for Tobin Bell's performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Josh, as we walked out, that's what I told him. I said, with the exception of the first one, this is my favorite one.
Yeah,
So it's my
Yeah.
second favorite.
yeah, and I would have to agree with that. We're gonna go through the whole movie, starting from beginning to end. So,
We'll
who
break
wants
it
to
up into
start?
acts
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So, I mean, actually, with how after you telling us that it was actually the installment that was post the first one and then in between the second one, like that makes a lot more sense on why
Yeah.
things happened the way that they did. I won't go through all of it, but especially I love that they made this more about Jigsaw.
Yeah. I think that's the
This
strongest
was
part
his
of
story
the
being
movie.
this was practically like the real origin story of how he formed. Like,
Well, yeah, and
it
one
was
thing
awesome.
that I don't know if you guys felt the same way watching this movie, and I know I'm not going to talk about the whole movie right now, but what I liked about the movie in general was the fact that it's funny when it reminded me a lot of, if for people out there that ever watched the show Dexter on Showtime, it reminded me a lot of, oh, we're feeling sorry for the dude that's killing
Yeah.
everybody.
I mean,
But the thing that's
essentially,
crazy is Jigsaw never kills anyone.
yeah, he never
Like,
kills anybody.
he's-
He gives
he-
it up to
well,
the
no,
choice. I
But
mean,
he
granted,
gives.
it's
But what I'm saying is
yeah.
he sets them up to die, but ultimately, it's really the person's wherewithal in every
Yeah, but
situation that he sets up.
all right. We're
Yeah.
getting into the ethical discussion here. You're
Well,
still
not
putting them in a situation that they have to harm themselves in order to get out of death.
correct.
So
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, you're
It's still
creating
his
the
fault.
high.
He's at fault anyway, but like,
I mean, he's
But
just trying
it
to
goes
take
down.
his
Yeah,
take
I
he
get
his
tries
that.
part in
to
it away.
redeem
Sorry, you're
people, but
creating the situation. You're killing those people.
No,
Like
no,
you're creating
I
the situation.
yeah, I'm just saying physically. Like, in most horror movies, the
Well, I'm
killer
not
is
saying you're
actually
thinking that. I'm
yeah,
saying like that's his way of
yeah,
thinking. Like,
yeah.
no, sorry, that's faulted. Like,
So to start off with, the beginning of the movie starts off with him being basically told that he's got months to live. So there's a scene at the very beginning when I think he's getting a drink from the drinking fountain, and he walks up to a room where there's a custodian looking to steal this person's stuff out of a drawer, while the dude's like basically unconscious. I wasn't sure if I think he was just
well, he was
yeah,
unconscious
just
he looked
because
like
he was on a he
unconscious, yeah.
wasn't on a ventilator, so he wasn't like fully like. But
It looked like
the
he
dude
broke
was
his hand, and then they were trying to
no,
reset
his
Yeah,
his.
leg was up.
his
Well,
his
it could have
there
been
was
his
a
foot too.
well
I couldn't
yeah
tell
there was
fully.
well there was something with his leg and his hand, because then they flash to what Jigsaw sees. So he sees the dude's hand like all attached to like wires and shit, and then the next
Yeah.
scene is him basically got that custodian in a trap that was basically mimicking partially this wired thing with his fingers. And
Yeah, and
and
that's the
hold
one.
on, Josh.
Oh,
Hold
sorry.
on. And then basically the trap, as he's going on, he has to click a dial and basically pull all of his fingers back to get out of it. Otherwise, his eyeballs are going to be sucked out of his head. So
Yeah,
that was basically the first what 10 minutes of the movie.
10 minutes.
And
Yeah.
then it flashes back to where the custodian sees him in the room and puts the stuff back because he sees him
didn't want
basically
pe-
taking
yeah.
the
Because he
stuff.
was caught.
So it was basically showing Jigsaw's mindset of what he thinks about right after right after he's told he's gonna die in a few months.
Yeah,
But
I think he was just sitting there thinking about like what type of trap to put him in.
That
Really,
well, no,
essentially, that's
it
what
was
I was
yeah,
thinking about.
it was going into his head, Josh. But what I'm saying is it was giving you a glimpse at what his
how his
mindset
thought
is
process is.
Yeah,
and why he was doing it. Like he doesn't just like pick anyone. He picked this custodian because he was ripping the dude off in the room. So it
yeah, and he
started
probably
off
did it to
doing
other
that.
people too.
Well, yeah, but if you remember back, you guys remember the first or all the other Saw movies,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah,
never really did that. Like you kind of got the gist of why, but you actually saw it like in real time, I guess, in this one for that particular
yeah,
purpose. But
yeah.
but then after that, I mean, somebody else can pipe in if they want to talk about it. But then the next part is he's
Oh
in
well,
a
yeah.
meeting.
Let's keep talking about that because we can
Yeah,
expound on the whole his process and everything like that. Because I mean, Jigsaw himself, he was trying to think of a poetic way to put him in a trap in order to make him learn his lesson. Just like, let's say, in a lot of societies, what was it? Uh, if you
eye for an
steal,
eye.
you lose a
Yeah,
hand. Eye for an eye.
yeah,
Yeah, that type of sentiment. So he was doing that.
yeah.
I went blank all of a sudden.
Well, the main thing for me is that I know first time
There's the
I'm
first
gonna
one.
try to end up doing,
Counting it.
but the main fucking damn it.
Just keep
Now,
going,
every
Josh.
time
Yeah, I
with
know.
the podcast,
It's
every
okay.
time
I'm
now,
just gonna
it's gonna
keep
be
counting
like
them.
I'm gonna end up
Yeah.
hearing it, and then it's gonna be like, oh shit. But anyway, I think that the main thing. I said it again. I'm not meaning to say it, honestly. Just how they in the movie they humanized them, like the main. It seemed like the whole movie was trying to understand what his reasoning was for why he did all the stuff that he was doing. So, like, even where he
Don't skip
finds
ahead,
the.
Josh. Remember,
Well,
we're
I
trying
thought
to
that
do
that
this.
was the next part. Was like after this, they were talking about
I'm just
him
making sure you don't
finding.
start talking
Oh,
about the
he
end of the movie
goes to
before.
the. No, I know that. He goes to a cancer. What's it called? Peer group.
Support group. Yeah.
Yeah, support group. So, and then there's a dude that's in there that he's talking about, like him being what's it called? Pancreatic
Yeah, he
cancer.
had stage
But
four
All right,
pancreatic.
where
let's
you
do this.
die no matter
When
what it is.
when we talked about talking about the whole movie, I was only kidding. We're literally giving him the whole movie. We're telling him every single
Well,
part of this. That's
this
probably not a
ain't.
good idea.
I'm not telling the whole
No, no,
story.
no,
I'm
no, no.
just
I'm saying all
saying,
three of
like,
us are doing that.
they're in a support group, and then eventually, the reasoning for the whole point of the movie
Yeah, it's
was
just
that this
pretty much
dude
the
turns
setup.
out
But
that he was in remission. So then he goes to find the person, like then and it cured him from his cancer. So literally, that's the whole purpose of the movie is him going to see these people in Mexico to cure. Pretty much Andy Kaufman stuff. If anybody knows of Andy Kaufman, where they say that supposedly he literally went to these people that are snake oil people, where they act like you're healed from something, or like cancer or whatever. They just
You're skipping
pretend.
to the second act, Josh.
No, it's not. I mean, like, I'm just revealing. I'm like, because all this stuff was shown. Oh, well, whatever. Somebody else cut in then.
It's
Sorry, I wasn't trying to like reveal too
all right.
much.
Let's talk about the first act as in this is the character development act, right?
yeah,
So that actually was my favorite part about this movie was that you got enough in the character development of Jigsaw, and that's in as a whole, like in my opinion, what Saw has always been missing was
Yeah, that's
because it
what I
wasn't
kind.
you're always they're building the structure around like the people that it's happening to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you don't get to know them, like you don't, it's nothing, so it just becomes this big gore fest after, since the second one and on. The first one wasn't that gory other than the, chopping his own limb off part. So that whole first act was you learning about his motivations in order to like lean on hope. And the first act, yes, is the hope part. So, I mean, how would you all expound on that for the
No, that was
first
kind of
act?
what I
Like,
mentioned. That's what I kind of mentioned at the beginning. Was this was the first time that they, to me, gave an explanation on why he was doing things, and
hmm
it was always you understood that these people did bad things and what they did, but you didn't really get why he was doing it. And
yeah,
this,
well, yeah. In the other movies, they did explain that he was terminally ill, but
yeah, that's
it
all
never
they,
give you quite so much insight. And
yeah.
you think about it now, and like showing the time frame of this, like the rest of the movies up into the point that he dies, like happens in such a short period of time.
Hmm.
It's like that's the only uh or not the only flaw, but that's one of the big flaws for me, just logically thinking about how this civil engineer is going to build all of these things within this short period of time. Which, let's, for instance, the the first one that happened, he had a lot of time to think. The first Saw movie, he
Hmm.
probably had a lot of time to cultivate the information, have the warehouse built, everything that had to go around that. It took a lot of time and preparation. But then in the rest of the Saw movies, or it's like you would need 6 months of preparation. You would need contractors to build all these things. You would need this, that, and the other thing. So my logical brain is just like,
Well,
okay, it throws it to the wind because it's like,
well, I think the timing, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Aaron,
no,
but
no, no, you're good.
there was a spot in this movie, and it was near the beginning, because it was around the time he was, and I don't know when he goes to the clinic when he's talking to somebody, and they
When he
mentioned
actually
it being,
gets to the
When he
clinic
gets
itself.
there, yeah.
yeah, it was, it was later though, right? Yeah, there's a point in the movie, and I don't remember when it was, where they're talking about it was 4 months before that. So I think there was like time
Four
in
months before
between.
that.
Yeah, he was talking to somebody, and there was
What
something,
was
a
that, the
comment made
support
about
group part?
it might have been because, or no, it was, yeah, it was the part where he meets Henry uh
When he's
when he got
out
the
to
information
eat or
about the
something,
clinic.
yeah.
They talked about, I just saw you 4 months ago, and you were like going to die, and then
Oh,
he
yeah, yeah,
remember, and he said, well,
yeah.
I went to this place, and so there was a
Oh
gap
yeah,
between,
yeah. No, but still, all right. So let's put this time frame into perspective. He
but
goes to his doctor, gets the scans and everything. This is at the very beginning.
mm-hmm,
He gets his scans done. They tell him he has, more like 3 months to live. So let's give him 3 months to a year. Then they shoot back 4 months to his when he's going to his support groups, and then it flashes back when he meets him again after he sees the doctor, and they tell him he's 3 to 4 months, or 3 months to a year, and then that's the time frame moving forward. So it's not it's happening like this. It's just that one scene was when it flashed back. It
but I
never
don't think it
tells you when it
flashed
goes back
back though,
forward.
because that was after they met at the support group, because he talked about him, and I know we're giving it away again, but we already said we were going to. But the conversation they had was he knew who he was from the support group, and it was 4 months since he saw him last.
Yeah, that's shooting back forward to the present time, which is when he went to go see or was
But
getting, after he already knew
he had already
his,
found that out though. Remember, because he was filling out his will and testament at the table.
Yeah.
So it was 4 months after the support group. It was current time, so there was a gap. And they showed a scene where he was actually designing shit still, and he ripped it out of the book and threw it away.
Yeah,
so
because he did that because he actually had hope of living again.
Oh no, I get that,
yeah.
But there's nothing saying that he didn't plan all that shit in the interim, and he was still doing. There's ways they can get around it. Is all I'm saying.
Stuff, I'm sure,
that one that he was drawing in his notebook was the one that one that he used later. Yes, but still, I'm telling you. There's a big difference between drawing it on a piece of paper.
I'm not.
Well, you're aware of that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that because all these movies.
That's the only thing that's hard to really believe. Yeah,
we talk about that in horror movies, though. It's like if you remember watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that dude would catch up on people, and he would never run.
Yeah.
So it's like there's just shit that's gonna be in horror movies, and any movie really in general because they're all fiction for the most part.
Yeah.
That they're gonna have, there's gonna be these plot holes and these things that you just can't get around them, especially if you want to tell a decent story. But I mean,
I wouldn't even call what I said a plot hole. It's just like,
it's
just
something they have to do in order for the movie to progress.
I mean, otherwise the movies would be 3.5 hours long. I mean, so it's
exactly.
But yeah, I mean. So I mean, at that point, he went to a clinic because the character Henry, basically said, "I'm cured," basically for the most part, and it gave him, like Aaron was saying, hope that he could live longer. And then that's kind of, I would say, close to about the part we start shifting into Act 2 because he basically has work done on him, or work done on him, in air quotes,
it shifts into Act 2 whenever he finds out that so-called work
was
they
a
were
scam,
just conning him.
Yeah.
So, and as we talked
pretty
about
much snake oil
the first act, like that dude was about to just thieve. He was about to steal a watch and a ring, and he wanted to break the guy's hand or suck out his eyeballs.
Yeah.
And his didn't even live to death in his mind. He just wanted to punish, and that's essentially what he's wanted. He's judge and executioner. Judge, jury, and executioner. Like but at that start of the first act, that's when things really started to pick up, and I'm glad it didn't take an hour and a half for it to pick up, and then it just dropped off. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, kind of like the movie we watched last week. If you get you guys could have watched it, but we're working through some issues currently. But
that's true. We're going through some issues. It was taken down. I mean, we can talk about the issues. It was taken down because somebody made a claim that we had copyright infringed, but it's literally like this video to where we're just talking about the video in great
obvious
great
fair
detail.
use.
And fair use for sure, because this is our intellectual property, not theirs. And we're trying to dispute it. Jeremy's doing a good job of trying to do that. Hopefully it'll be up. If not, my camera just here, let me.
Your gimbal's like, hey,
bye guys. Let me fix this.
That's gonna be a fun time in the video. I'm gonna keep going. But going into the second act, like we said, he figures out they conned him because and then it sets off with him
finding them.
Finding them and recruiting Shawnee to assist in.
Well, I think at the time, that was at the same time where she was helping him. As soon as she was in the trap and the first one and survived it, she's been helping him, essentially. and mind you, I think it's the third or fourth movie that something happens to her, where I'm sure we'll talk about it in another podcast. And she gets written off the series or whatever. Especially most of the people that are watching this one should have watched the other movies while I'm mentioning it, because I guess Aaron's still having issues.
Yes, I am. But I'm
But
solving them.
essentially, they're just they get all the people, and then they set them all up in a room where they're all having collars around their necks, essentially for the main game that he's doing, like for this movie.
But yeah, so I mean, does somebody want to talk about the first?
The first kill.
Oh,
Kill?
the first.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically it would have been the second kill, I guess. But out of this,
No, it was
the
the
first
first
one,
one.
yeah.
because
Diego
the
was
other
the first
one
one.
was in
Oh, never mind.
Uh,
Because
the
eyeball
one
thing
was in his
still
mind,
survived, yeah.
and he wouldn't have died from any of the stuff that
Oh,
he had.
actually,
on
we
that guy
didn't mention
instead.
the second guy where it was, or never mind. He was in the same thing. Never mind. Don't
Huh?
worry. I'm thinking about the guy that had pipe bombs on his arms.
Yeah,
That's Diego. That's the first one.
That's when I
Yeah,
thought it was the first one. but
Diego,
yeah.
the first kill is the guy that actually just drove him. He was part of it, but he's the one that just delivered him to the place.
No, he didn't.
No,
he didn't
the
just
first-
deliver
Oh, that's
him.
right. He did the. Well, I
was-
didn't want to
he
give
was-
that away yet, but the first thing
Well, I
you
mean, it
see
is-
him.
it is what
Well,
it
yeah,
is.
but yeah. Well, I wanted to just say at first you think he's just delivering him to the he's driving the taxi to drop him off, but then you find out he's even also the guy that supposedly did the surgery on his head. But
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that's what. Yeah,
Well, that's not, like,
But
I was
did
trying to
you-
remember
Pipe
who
bombs
had
on his
the pipe
arms.
bombs
But-
on his arms, though.
Well, yeah,
That's
he had
him.
pipe bombs, and he had to. He
No,
basically.
because I thought
he
that
lived
was the
through it.
same
He didn't. I
dude
don't
that
think he
had a
died.
mask thing on.
Well,
No, he
Diego
had
didn't
I thought
die because
the one that did the surgery had the skull thing.
no. All right,
no,
no.
that was another. That,
That
was
was the
Mateo.
anesthesiologist.
But we'll get.
Yeah,
we'll
but
get,
I thought he was. Yeah, whatever.
No,
No.
anesthesiologist is the guy that administers the drugs, not the guy
Yeah.
that cuts into your skull with
Yeah.
the bone saw. But
Yeah,
that was
so-
just anyway.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
pointed out later that
Yeah,
it's
we're
Diego when he's.
digressing a little
But
bit,
but Diego didn't die. Basically, he had to cut the pipe bombs off his arms.
Yeah, so he had to tear into his flesh instead of, because they said that
Which
the wires that attached the
describe
pipe
this.
bombs.
Let's
yeah.
describe this. So
Yeah.
he had two surgical knives attached to his arms with duct tape
Yeah,
all the way
duct
around
tape,
it, so
yeah.
he couldn't use his fingers or anything like that. So all he has is two fucking knives on his arms. Okay, and then he had pipe bombs right on his forearm, and then high tension cable wrapped around the bomb, and it was inserted into his skin, like, so it wasn't wrapped around his arm.
Yeah, it was just in
It
his.
was
Yeah, it
in
was
his
embedded
arm.
in it.
Oh, okay. See,
So in
I
order for him to
couldn't-
get the bomb off, like, he had to cut through his arm all the way and rip that shit off. And give the man props. He did it with
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
of them bombs.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was a mind fucker. Either that or he just goes like this, crucifix, and lets his arms blow off.
Yeah,
And
well, I
it
mean,
killed
that's.
him too.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
the-
You saw the explosion afterwards. It would have blown him
that
up.
would've-
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah, he was pretty much. Well, he was not the only person to survive the trap, but
Or
A
trap.
trap.
yeah,
Yeah,
a trap.
A-trap.
Yeah. We'll talk about the other one later, but
Hell, let's just go through it because I mean, Act
well,
Two.
that's what I'm saying.
Act
It
Two
was all.
essentially all of them. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
but
he
the
was on
next one was Valentina, which was the nastiest one in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I felt it was. She had
it
to
was
literally.
the quickest thing for the head, though.
But it
I
was
mean,
the
like,
nastiest
the
one. She had to.
leg thing,
So
though, yeah.
so the premise on this one was she had a wire across her, right at her neck level, and she was locked into place essentially, and she had to use a wire saw. What they call it, jiggly saw, think is what it's called.
I think
but
that's what
it's
they
a
said.
saw.
Wire.
It's the saw that you basically can go back and forth with a wire and just. Well, the premise was she had a dotted line on her leg, and she had to cut her leg off and then suck bone marrow out of her bone, out of her femur, and get enough out of it to stop the the wire that was set up at her neck to not cut her head off.
And guess what, y'all? She had 3 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's go to the ethical thing here again.
Yeah, yeah.
This man is killing people. He's putting the standard. But you actually
setting
think
the
about
standard.
It, that was one thing that was different about this one from all the other saws. Have you noticed the ones from 2 and on? Like there were time limits, but not near as frequent time limits, and there were actually things that they were able to accomplish within that time.
Well, part of it too was
there's no surefire way that Valentino, cutting off her leg in 3 minutes, maybe because she's just going ham, but to suck bone marrow out
and then fill it up,
and then fill it up. Come on, bro! Like 3 minutes ain't long enough for that.
I mean,
she just cut her leg off. Come on.
But I am trying to wonder. I can't remember if it was her character or if it was the cop that showed up at one point, or at least they kind of hinted at
the cop.
But
that's what I'm alluding to is that
the games.
Yeah, Hoffman.
So, like in past Saw movies,
Hoffman was basically the Jigsaw of 3 and 4.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
like pretty much the last 4 movies, I think he was.
But mainly in 3 and 4, though.
Yeah.
Anyways, so spoiler, like we've been talking, she dies. And literally she dies after cutting her entire leg off and almost filling up the marrow enough to stop it. She missed it by, like what Aaron said, because there was 3 minutes.
5 seconds.
She missed it by probably 5 seconds. And that was the theme.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, at what point are you like, damn, you just cut your leg off? You probably, that was punishment enough.
Yeah. It should be like, okay,
no, you're good. I'm going to press the button
there.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like the next one was Mateo, which I think it was supposed to be Gabriella first. So Mateo was like what Josh was saying, was the anesthesiologist. Well, Josh wasn't saying it. Aaron was explaining who that was. But Mateo was the anesthesiologist, and he's the one that they had him in this rig that went around his head.
We both explained it. Do you want to have Josh explain it?
Yeah, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
For which one? His trap?
Mateo's. His trap, yeah.
So he was hooked into like a chair, it looked like at least, a chair with a big old mass thing that was on there, but it shot electricity out. So they brought the Jigsaw bicycle that had all the equipment that he needed to use. So pretty much he had to cut into his brain, take part of his brain matter out, and then put it on a scale. And then eventually the scale would trigger him out of the trap.
It was actually an enzyme that basically would dissolve the brain matter. And it had to weigh enough to drop and which I don't know how it measured it based on what it was sitting on, but because it wasn't a weight thing.
Yeah.
Because it was just an
amount of... It wasn't displacement. It wasn't any of this. It was like what the chemical would do.
Yeah.
So, come on. And guess how much time this motherfucker had?
He had 3 minutes to cut into his skull and take brain matter out.
Sorry,
and
a
put
surgeon
enough.
Getting into your skull takes longer than that. Skull takes a lot longer than 3 minutes to get there. Especially when somebody else, or you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, your home version of it. Yeah.
Give the man 15 minutes. He's getting through his damn skull, bro.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, that's the main thing.
I like the movie. I really do like the movie. But damn, dude, 3 minutes?
Yeah, I know. They gave them barely any time for most of these people. Most of the kills in the
I
thing.
think the only one...
Those were the only two that were...
Yeah, the only two that had time limits.
It was more at the end, but...
Well, yeah, but that was... Well, we'll get to that at the end, but... Like, the next one... I mean, again, this dude didn't make it, so he almost did. You know, in the 3 minutes
Well,
again, it was within, you know, what they were showing, right? Is that he almost
yeah,
made it.
almost.
But Josh, do you want to say what ultimately happened? Because I don't know if it was electricity. I think it was heat.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
Because it
it
I
was
just
think
like
so.
shocked him a few times. It seemed
yeah.
like, but
Well,
yeah.
it did
So
at first. I'm talking about when the thing actually closed on him. You saw it
oh yeah.
almost reminded me
So
of the inside of an oven. You know,
so to backtrack a little
the
bit,
coils.
they talked about what's it called when John Kramer was in the taxi ride to the place. He showed a statue to his right or left or whatever, where it was
Mm-hmm.
talking about something about death or something. And it's like people go to it a lot or something.
Mm-hmm.
So when I
Yeah.
saw it close or whatever, it looked like it was supposed to represent that statue.
Oh,
That's
I
what it
agree.
looked like
Yeah,
to me.
I don't remember what the name of the statue was either.
Oh, but
Yeah,
no. All
But
right. So Jeremy was asking you what the actual face did. It
yeah,
had grill marks, and it heated up like an oven, like the
yeah.
inside of an oven, and then shut on his face. Okay, it's kind of like what was it? The medieval horror or the medieval torture device, the Iron Maiden, to where
Yeah.
you be in it and then have spikes that cave in around you. Same premise, just with oven
and then I
grills on it.
watched something where they even said the Iron Maiden was meant for a different use than torture at the time when they made
Yeah,
it.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
Yeah, I don't
like
know. They
I
did some
watched
crazy
something where
shit
they
back
were
then.
talking
So,
about old medieval
like,
torture objects and
like,
stuff.
like I
But
say,
yeah,
you know, individuals have it easy now compared to what we did to people back in like medieval times. But
oh yeah, the
yeah,
bronze or
Yeah,
the iron bowl or whatever it's called,
but
where
the
they
next one
yeah,
up
that's
was
messed up. Gabriella.
Gabriella, was who basically you find out, and this was, and I'm going to kind of steer back to, I guess when they were caught. This was the only one, and I liked how they did this
You're
too. And
probably gonna
let me know if
say
you
the
guys
same thing as
agree
me.
with this. But Shawnee Smith's character in the movie had a liking for her because she basically said drugs were the reason she was doing things. And this was the only character in the movie. Like they didn't really go into characters of the people that he caught, except for Gabriella. They kind of explained
yeah,
that she was on drugs. Like the other ones, they just caught, and there was no like backstory on the people. But Gabriella, you see, meets Mateo. Besides the fact that Mateo was giving her the drugs, but outside of that, you didn't really have a lot of character stuffing. You find out that she was a drug addict, basically, and
Mhm.
Shawnee didn't want to hurt her because of that. And then
it's
there was a
mostly because
dynamic between.
I think
Yeah,
Shawnee Smith's character was a drug addict
she
in the
was, but
first one, and
so
Yeah.
that's
she
why
had
she went to
sympathy
the
for her.
yeah,
But
yeah.
what I'm saying is they actually went into that, which again, that's another thing that I liked about this movie is they really delved into stuff that they needed to. I think, in
Yeah.
terms of
In order to create
making,
a
yeah,
story,
Yeah.
yeah,
like the story was tremendously better. Like the first one, it's in a league of its own just because the way that it was written, how it
mm-hmm,
actually flashes back to you don't know what's going on until the very end, and then it
mm-hmm,
shows you how it led to those events. So
yep,
that is the story, and you're kind of the characters in the first one are all built around this circumstance. Now, this one is like the character development leading up to what happened to him,
mm-hmm,
mainly with Jigsaw. Of course, it should have been about him. So this
Yeah.
story was just better than oh
yeah,
shit, all the other ones,
yeah,
all of them. But
yeah,
Gabriella,
and
I would say, out of all the kills, well, out of all the punishments, I'll call them. This one's the only one that I didn't really agree with because it was like she played a character in his what was it
yeah,
in
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 the
con.
In the
surgery,
surgery, yeah.
literally,
Well,
she was just the nice
she was
person.
the nice person at the house.
Mm-hmm,
She was just being nice to him. So
mm-hmm,
it's like, how much do
Yeah.
you want to involve
Yeah.
this person that was literally how much did she have to do with anything?
Well,
Like,
and that's what and that's what I was saying too, was that was the dynamic between Sean, and I keep forgetting what her name was in the movie,
Amanda, I think.
Amanda,
yeah,
and Jigsaw, or John Kramer, there was that dynamic between the two of them over her for that same pretty much reason. Like, they kept saying, "What did she do?" And he's like, "Well, she was part of it." Well,
yeah.
literally, she acted
People get
like it
roped
was her
into things all
house.
the time, but
Yeah, and
it's
that's
a
Yeah.
guilt by
Yeah.
association.
yeah, and that's
So,
what Amanda's. Remember, Amanda, I think wasn't she a cop?
Who,
no,
Amanda? No. No.
I'm trying to remember what her
I
character
mean, I would
was.
have
She
to
was
rewatch it again for me to
maybe
remember.
not.
But I thought she was just a
oh
drug
no,
addict.
never
chick.
mind. I'm thinking of something wrong. Never mind. I'm thinking of the other person that we'll talk about later. But yeah, Gabriella. Who did you want to talk about the actual trap,
yeah, I'll go.
The
I'll go
Aaron?
ahead
trap,
and
yeah.
talk about the trap, I guess. Uh, let's see. So, Gabrielle, she had one chain on her arm and then one on her foot. Now these pulled taut, and she was actually sprung, what's it called when somebody's hanging in the air? They're
Suspended in the air.
suspended. She was suspended in the air, and she had a radiation machine that was spitting radiation at her while she was suspended. And she had a tool there, a hammer of some kind, that she had to break her foot and her hand in order to get out of the trap. So the whole time this shit's burning her face and stuff like that, she breaks her foot, and then she's able to swing out of the way, and then the trap moves for the radiation right in front of her again, and she's like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah,
Has to break
Yeah,
her
and
hand.
she thought that she was
So,
okay, and then it
but
moved.
yeah,
and
she.
and
I
She's
mean,
like, son of
she
a
got through it.
bitch.
So
yeah, and mind you, the antagonist, the antagonist of the film is still here talking to these people like, "You're doing good," throughout the
Yeah.
entire thing,
mm,
like
And
trying
like,
to look
what are
like,
they trying to do
yeah.
for her trap?
Well, we'll get to that,
But no, I was just saying,
but
like, thought process.
she was
but I
still
mean,
playing this character. You know, she was.
but
Yeah.
but I mean, this was the one also that I alluded to earlier, that there were two people that survived their traps. But there's something else that happens to Gabriella outside of the trap that it was kind of, that honestly I wasn't expecting. that
Mhm.
I but yeah.
But I
Oh, we
forgot
didn't
we
even talk
didn't
about this.
mention.
In
Oh, okay.
oh, I was going to say, in the midst of all these things happening,
Yeah, did you?
there was another patient. That this is
Yeah.
probably what Josh was going to talk about. There was another
Yeah.
patient
Yeah.
that that John met when he was actually getting recruited for this whole deal.
Yeah, that
That
was actually
actually
part of Act
came
1 we
to,
forgot.
yeah, we forgot about that. But in Act 2, he comes to the place that John is actually holding all this stuff going on, and he kind of gets right in the middle of it. They tie him up, and then by the time Gabrielle, they let him out. By the time Gabrielle is in her deal,
Yeah.
and then shortly after, he what does he do? Pulls a gun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would
Puts
say
the
that's
gun.
when we transition into Act 3, probably, is right about this point, is when
Yep.
the climax kind of begins to occur.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you'd want to talk, Josh, or if we want to, or if you want me to go, or
I don't know. I'll
and
talk
talking about this part.
little bits and pieces. So pretty much they have the main antagonist of the movie where she was saying her dad was making the surgeries that eventually they conned John Kramer out of. So she was kept till last. So she was hooked up to, I don't know, part of a grate or something, the whole entire thing. So then I think at this point that they're talking to the other guy that they chained up. He freed him with the gun in his hand, and he said that it was up to his choice if he wanted to survive. And they mention it like he was still saying that he was being conned by her and trying to get her money. Because earlier in the film, we didn't mention they were trying to get a phone off a table, and they essentially, it was right after Veronica died, they grabbed her intestines to
I
get
mean
the
Valentina,
phone so
but
they
yeah,
could, or Valentina, sorry,
yeah.
to get the phone so they could call somebody. So essentially, he comes in trying to do stuff, and that's why they chained him up.
And just so you
So,
know, and I don't want
huh?
to, I don't mean to cut you off. Just so you know, I knew the minute they put that tray in the middle of the room, there was a reason for it.
Oh yeah.
So well, if you guys have watched any of the other Saw movies, there's a reason he does everything he does. Like there's literally, and that's the funny thing I mean, I get you're a civil engineer and an architect or whatever, but the mind what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the word, but
Yeah.
The mind the
he,
10 writers have that are
yeah,
making this movie is
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They think about a lot of
But I
things
mean,
with it, or planning.
to say this character can put all, and Aaron kind of alluded to it earlier, like the time frame that he has and that he does all of the stuff and plans it out is just crazy, because all of this that was set in motion was all done for a reason. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't, when we got to that act 3, basically they get out of their that this patient ends up being on the side of the antagonist of the film, and they basically kind of chain up Amanda and John or Jigsaw into what they call the final trap, or think is the final trap, let's say. And it ends up being, they ends up going through this whole thing, and I won't spoil like the whole dialogue of this part, but it's basically, you thought, I didn't know who you were, blah, 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 and, I'm basically going to take you out. And then, and we didn't talk about a kid showing up at the beginning that kind of was friends with John at the beginning, but
we can't talk about everything.
well, no, but it kind of sets up this part in that
Yeah.
the antagonist sees a kid kicking a soccer ball outside against the building and decides that he needs to come in and be hooked up to this trap because he's an innocent person that John needs to see die.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because, I mean, for all intents and I don't mean funny in that respect, but
It's kind of ironic.
in that, it's ironic in that, he kind of feels that, anyways, the trap that John ends up being put on is one that's like a teeter-totter, I would say, that depending upon, it starts out where it's not waterboarding, but it's bloodboarding, basically, as blood's being thrown into your face and you're not able to breathe too well. And the way to get out of it is to pull this lever. And
well, you sacrifice yourself, you get waterboarded as the other person lifts, and their blood gets cut off.
yeah,
So he didn't want the kid, so he
did.
hold on it as long as possible. But this
But-
kid, he was
Yeah,
pulling
but
it
it
right
was
back
also
in.
the part of the foreshadow, and Josh talks about this in other podcasts we've talked about as foreshadowing. There was a scene at the very beginning where he's asking this same boy that he met when he was at the clinic how to say the word pull in Spanish. So it was already being set up at this point. Like, it's almost like when you start to think about that he knew this was the case and it was validated early on to him.
That I wouldn't call foreshadowing, because that was just a coincidence within the movie. It's
Well-
like they.
Well, I don't know if,
I only
but,
say
but
it's
he
That
only
wasn't
knew
part of the plan
but
at all.
I say foreshadowing though because he figured
he
out the
needed
word
to know
pull
that
in
information.
Spanish
Yeah.
because that's how he communicated with a kid, and he was telling him don't pull, and he was using the word he learned from the boy
only word
earlier
he
in
learned
yeah
from the kid.
yeah.
And that's why I'm wondering that they probably set up this trap where it was like this the whole time, but he thought that they were going to put Amanda in it.
Yeah.
So they would be in the trap together. So then
Yeah, and
they
that's where
pulled
he
an
alluded to the
earlier.
plan didn't go exactly as
Yeah.
planned.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about. That she wasn't put in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
that's why I figured once they gave him the gun and let him go for this dude at one point to test him. And then I was just like, yeah, it seemed like the whole thing was testing that dude about, like, that was part of his game before he got in the.
Well, the
like,
funny
final
part
trap.
was, the funny part to me, and I keep saying funny part, but I was fully expecting the way these movies go is when he picked up that gun that he would pull the trigger and something would happen to him. Like, it literally would, kill him, because the plan was that he rigged it to, like, blow up in his face or stab him or tase him backwards, do something to him. So that was the surprising part to me, as he rigged it not to do anything. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Essentially,
but yeah, ultimately it ended up being that those two that he knew all along were in cahoots were ultimately the ones, and he foreshadowed, like, she's gonna take you out too. And that's basically, I don't know if basically they got stuck in a room with chemical gas filling it up, and they had to kill one of the other ones to get out.
Yeah.
And what Josh alluded to, this one had a 10-minute timer.
Yeah.
Instead of the 3-minute timer that the rest of them had.
Yeah, the main thing I feel about this trap, I know I said it again, but I don't think that the trap was very good for the girl, though. I don't think, like, if you're talking about redeeming and stuff like that, the whole entire movie was, like, talking about people going through the trap and then feeling different when you're out of it. And then they put this trap up where then it's like kill or be killed between the two. And then he even said that she was going to kill him earlier in the movie, or like right around the trap part. So you knew that she had no qualms killing him. So it's like, how is this the game for her?
Yeah, it would. I mean, I agree with that.
That's
it
the
was,
only
it was probably
bad
the
part
most
that I think.
lacking game
Yeah.
out of the whole
Yeah, because
thing.
it felt kind of like you feel shortchanged when you kind of figured that she was
Well,
going to.
it felt more like you conned me, and now I win. The satisfaction that
Yeah.
you gained when I win.
I think that was the failsafe, though, too. It wasn't only that Amanda was going to be in that with him. I think the original plan was those two were going to be on that board. Like, it was going to be them fighting.
It could go either way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
either
say-
way.
all right.
like he was set up. He was
remember
set
when
up
he
for
asked-
either way.
You remember exactly. You remember when he said there are no guns, blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Mhm.
That's when they were trying to figure out which game was going to actually happen. Because if he didn't use the gun, then he would be like with her.
Yeah.
Because they already knew that they were in cahoots together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like then they would do the game together. It would say he would ask him to get on, she would have to do it. The only way out is if you get on this with her, and then you guys do this thing.
Yep.
Or he pulled the gun, and then one of them dies. So,
But ultimately, they show her surviving but not getting out of the room. Everything stops once the timer ends. And then John, the little boy, and Amanda leave. And that's how the movie ends.
oh yeah, Gabrielle did get killed.
Yeah, Gabrielle,
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. We didn't
because
talk about that,
killed
but
her.
the antagonist steps on her neck and basically kills her.
Yeah,
Too
because
late.
they said
Too
that
late
she
for that
needed
shit.
medical
Yeah.
attention afterwards.
Yeah.
They're like, she needs to go to a doctor. I think I'm thinking about
John,
that a little bit too much.
John, and that's what I was saying. There was somewhat, if they made it through it, he wanted to get them medical help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if they did, he wasn't worried about if they died or not. But if they survived, he wanted to make sure
that it was their choice. If they didn't make it, then they chose wrong. Which I don't think that's how it is in all of the counts, because we talked about parts of the other movie where they just missed out on time. It's like
Yeah.
he could have had a failsafe to, like, you're saying, like a whole nother 20 seconds and she would have probably made it, or like even Mateo, they would have eventually made it if you just gave them like 50
Yeah,
more
because I
seconds or
mean, the
something.
ultimate punishment was, are you willing to go this far in order to
Yeah.
redeem yourself? Yeah,
Yeah.
she was. She cut off her fucking leg.
Yeah.
Like, and him, he bored through his skull and pulled out brain matter. Yeah, they both did. They they deserve to live, in my opinion. Like, you're relying on chemicals for the
Yeah.
brain matter,
I
Yeah.
which
totally
that could
agree.
have taken 20 minutes to do on its own. And then
Yep.
the other one, you're relying on bone matter or bone marrow. So it was like all these scalable offenses, which they're just bound to lose. So yeah, that was hardly a choice there.
Yeah. And then the only other thing
Yeah.
that happened, that went to credits, but there's a mid-credits scene where Henry, who was also part of the scam, and he's the one we
Gets
talked about
caught.
at the beginning. He gets
And then
put into a new trap that's overseen by John and Mark Hoffman that we
Hoffman,
talked
yeah.
about earlier. He was Costas Mandalore's character, and he was the cop that basically turned into the killer in later installments. But he's more
yeah.
he's got a monotone voice, and he really doesn't give a shit about anyone. So he's a
He
different
was
character. So
setting up things to fail.
yeah,
Yep.
and so this this goes into explaining why, and like Aaron said, it makes a lot of sense when you see this and that it's between the two, because then it explains why things happen later in the
Yep.
later installments the way
Yeah,
they did.
Yep.
and how his traps have evolved over that
Yeah.
time too.
Yep.
Because I mean, maybe he saw. I mean, that's what I think. He saw those two that were on the verge of redemption and was like, maybe that was a little too difficult.
Yeah.
Like, let me
Yeah.
scale that back
Yep.
because I've never.
Mhm.
I don't remember. I'll look it up. Like, what other 3 minute?
I mean, you have to do a lot for 3 minutes. Like, I don't
Well,
know.
Well,
no, I'm
they
just saying.
yeah
Like,
they had him do a lot, but I mean,
yeah.
for all of you guys, would you guys recommend seeing it in theaters or waiting for? Because I know we talked about
Yeah.
the other one that we should wait. We should have waited until it was streaming. But what do you
This
guys
one
think
I
about this
say
one?
watch it in theaters.
If there were any of the Saws, because I remember seeing the first one in theaters. If there were any installment that I would go suggest, it would be this one.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably should have led with that, so you didn't have to get through all the stuff. Maybe we can put a little
Well, I'll put it in
thing
the
in the description saying what
or
what
in
we
the
thought about it.
title. Yeah, we could
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
great for theaters or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that works.
Awesome
Awesome movie.
but yeah, I mean, I wanted
Are you
to go
guys
over.
hearing me click this thing? Can you guys
Yes.
hear
A
it?
bit, yeah.
Yes, I was
Oh, my
thinking
bad.
it was. I was thinking it was you opening a can, but it kept happening. But no big deal.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean that's
a lot.
that's pretty. Josh moves back and forth, and I tend to
Yeah,
almost
that's
yeah.
just like me and like I can't what's it called?
Sits down.
Every time whenever somebody talked about Locky Neeson,
We don't
even
care.
though mind you I'm sitting
Hey,
down,
Josh, guess what? We
oh,
don't care.
shut up.
But
We don't
you
care.
shut up.
We
so
don't
You're
care.
a butthole.
so for anybody, I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion of basically giving away the whole plot of Saw 10. And if you and if you made it all the way here, we fully appreciate you. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel and you like listening to this, we're gonna keep doing it because in the next installment we're actually gonna be talking about the movie Heir of the Witch, which will be releasing on Wednesday. I think it's October 4th. But in that podcast, we're not only going to be talking about the movie, but we're going to be talking with the writer, director, and star of the film. So if you guys want to check that out, that's going to be a very fun podcast for us to do. It'll be our first one of any of our podcasts where we've actually had a guest on it, besides, us.
Us.
Which
How we're gonna handle that? We
Yeah.
don't fucking know.
yeah, yeah, we're
Set
we're
the
we're gonna
low
do the
bar
best
right
we
there.
can with that first one because it's gonna set a precedent for the rest of them. But following that podcast, I believe we're going to be watching the new Exorcist movie that comes out on October 6th. So that'll be the one we talk about after this, I think. It'll be something that releases on that Friday, but I think that's the main one. And I think they moved that to the 6th because Taylor Swift decided to release her concert movie on the 13th, so they moved it up a week.
Wait,
So
what?
The Exorcist was originally
They moved The
Yes.
Exorcist because of Taylor Swift?
Yeah,
Yep.
because a bunch of people are going to watch that movie. Dude.
So if that tells you
people
the
will pay
impact
$2,000 for a concert ticket, they're going to
Oh my God,
flood the theaters.
yeah, if that tells you if that if
They
that
should
tells
have
you
sent it
the
out a week before that.
if that
What
tells
I
you
didn't tell everyone is I'm going to see it.
so if that tells you the impact of Taylor Swift, nothing else does. So, but I hope I mean, they move a horror movie out of a week in October, and they're like, no, we can't compete with her.
We can't
Well,
compete.
I mean, I'm sure that people are going to be like, yeah. I'm telling you, that is probably going to be in theaters.
It almost
for
makes you
like months.
concerned. It almost makes you concerned about what their opinion of the film, though, because I'm like, you don't think a horror movie that people are going to go watch a horror movie can compete against a
compared
concert
to
movie?
Taylor Swift, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Taylor Swift fans are going to watch that. I doubt they're going to watch Exorcist.
No.
yeah.
I mean,
highly doubt
they're
that.
like they
Yeah.
wouldn't
Really,
even be in
I
their
don't
plans.
think-
But
exactly.
Still.
I don't
Yeah, I mean-
think Taylor Swift is gonna like it. It's not the same.
no, so but with that, I mean, I think that's where we're heading. At some point, I think we're going to watch. There's a
Taylor Swift.
No, not.
That's where
Taylor
we're
Swift.
headed.
No.
As on Screen Creeps. Okay, there
Yeah.
you said that Taylor Swift's movie is a horror movie.
I think she would be good in a horror movie.
I
Swift.
couldn't. I
I
don't
was
know
gonna
if she
do a
would.
show where I was
but-
going to say, as long as she plays like Paris Hilton in the thing, through the eye. No, I'm
But
just kidding.
like I said, in the next podcast, we'll be
I know, I was kidding because
we'll be
that's what
talking about
happens in the movie.
Heir of the Witch. So we'll also leave that movie in the trailer of that movie in the description for anybody that's interested. And I'll put, like I did before, I'll put QR codes on the screen for both trailers in case you don't look at the description on our video necessarily. It'll be an easy clickable thing on screen. But for all of us here at Scream Creeps, I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion on Saw 10. Go see it in theaters. Even if you listen to this whole thing, because we didn't literally go into graphic detail on every kill, you can still watch them. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night or day or whenever you're watching this.
Later. Bye.